Good afternoon. Good morning. Oh, yeah, I think it's afternoon. Morning, lunchtime. Hello, everybody. My name is Erica Steiger. I think you haven't met me yet. I'm co-hosting the seminar series. I'm a professor of practice at the Department of Global Development. I'm a tropical agronomist, specialized in rice, an ecological way of growing rice worldwide. So that's a little bit my background. And I would like to welcome everybody today to this Tsujimoto Perspective in Global Development Seminar Series. And it's a really great honor for me to introduce today our speaker, Francesca Felici. She's an anthropologist of food systems and currently a PhD candidate in the University of Rome, La Sapienza. Her research focuses on the right to food, sociocultural dimension of food security. Importantly, I would say how food policies can transform the food system so they become more sustainable for the environment and equitable and just for the people. She's a researcher, collaborator at the Observatory on Food Insecurity and Poverty based in Rome. She's also a researcher and assistant project manager in the EU-funded Divine Food Project, which promotes the use of neglected and underutilized crops to strengthen sustainable and resilient food systems across Europe. She has been, she's a consultant with the FAO and with IFAD, both have their headquarters in Rome, so that's basically kind of convenient, no? She speaks four languages fluently, so I just ask her Italian, English, Spanish, and French. So pick your language if you have questions later on. And she brings an interdisciplinary and global perspective to questions of food security, agrobiodiversity, and social justice. And today you see the title, Addressing the Right to Food to Transform the Food System in the Global North. As I'm specialized in the Global South, I think I'm really excited to learn about the Global North. And so, Francesca, benvenuti alla Cornell. Prego, la parola è a vostra.
Okay, thanks so much. Thanks so much. Okay. Thanks, Amelia, for this wonderful introduction. Actually, I mean, while it was this, I said, oh, it's really, I also do that. I forgot to have done this thing. So thanks, Amelia. Okay, good afternoon to everyone. My name is Francesca Felici. Can you hear perfect? Okay, is it working? Okay. So today I'm here during this seminar, and I would like to thank everyone, I mean, who made this possible, Maria and the others. And I'm a PhD candidate student. So, okay, so I'm still at the early stages of my career. So I'm not like a senior professor talking about something. I will just share what I learned so far during my years of research and study. I am a food anthropologist, as the professor said. So what's anthropology? Okay, the anthropology is the discipline, the field of studying that actually studies the cultural diversities among human beings. Okay, so we study particular groups and we try to understand their cultural dynamics. Okay, the cultural trends. And so food anthropology is actually this approach, but applied to the issue, to the topic of food. Okay, so I study the relationship between food and society. And so far, I've been studying especially this relationship in, let's say, Western countries, societies. Okay, so that's why I'm focused on the global North. I do this PhD, so I research at the University of Rome La Sapienza, and the title of my PhD is the places of food biopolitics that are, I mean, that's how I call them, but it's actually prisons, hospitals, schools, and food aid programs, so places where people cannot choose what they are eating, and I study like how the right to food intersect with this in these places, okay? At the same time, As the professor said, I'm a consultant for the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO. I don't know if you know what's this organization. It's an agency of the United Nations which is focused on that. And in this organization, I work in promoting the systemic approach to food policies. So still, I mean, my domain is always related to food policies. And over the years, I've been working on food poverty, food aid, and urban food policies, especially through a research lab, an observatory we have in Italy, in Rome specifically, where we study the access to food, affordability, food deserts, and food poverty in general. Okay, and at the same time, of course, since we are studying food poverty and access to food, we study the policies and the programs that are implemented to address these topics. That's why I studied also food aid. I'm a participant of the research, the Rome Food Policy Council and the Rome Food Policy process in Rome. So this means that the city of Rome has a local food policy, and we have a food council that is a participatory space where civil society, academia, private actors come together and let's say discuss about the priorities, the food priorities of the city. We don't make policy, we actually provide policy recommendations to the political level, but it's a very important space so that the policies implemented are more participative. So I mean, there's let's say the civil society and academia have a voice to suggest what is better for the city. And I also teach a course an undergraduate level at the American University of Rome, which is a small university in the city that is connected to some other universities in US. This course is called Food and Environment, and this university is famous in Rome because we have a master program in food studies, which is very interesting, it's very interdisciplinary. And so I think you are asking yourself why I'm here in US now. So I'm here because for my PhD, it's recommended to go abroad and to see what's happening elsewhere. And so my field, as I told you, is in Italy, is in Rome, but I'm very interested in what is happening here in US. There are many urban food policies ongoing. There are many food aid programs like the SNAPs or others ongoing in US, but especially in New York State. And so I'm here connecting with some professors, some colleagues who are studying the same field of mine, just to have like an exchange on these topics. And I really recommend you like to make these exchanges during your studying career, because it's very important. Okay, when you don't understand, since English is not my native language, so if you don't understand me, please raise your hand and ask me questions whenever you want. Okay, deal. So let's start. The right to food. So I've been approaching this topic because, as I told you, I used to work on food poverty issues, and throughout the years, my colleagues and I, let's say, we approach the right to food because we recognize that is, let's say, the comprehensive concept that can help nowadays to address food insecurity, but also to transform the food system. Okay, but let's see what we mean by the right to food. For right to food, we mean the right to adequate and dignified food that respects nutritional and sociocultural needs and contributes to the fulfillment of individual desires and abilities. Okay, this is a definition from FAO. So what we mean? We mean the right not only to, let's say, a food that is quantitative enough, but that is also qualitatively enough, let's say, respectful of people's needs and desires. So it's very important to keep these two dimensions, because as you know, in global north, in Western countries, issues related to food are not related to quantity, because we are full of supermarkets, the food is available. Okay, the issue is more related to the quality of food, because As you can see, when you make the grocery, let's say healthier and more sustainable food can be less affordable than, let's say, unsustainable ones, okay? So the issue of quality is very important, and even if we have food banks, we have a food aid system, it's very hard to really, even in Western countries, it's very hard to have this right to food in a holistic way as we mean it, okay? And there's an ongoing debate in Western countries around this right to food, especially after COVID-19 pandemic and the inflation dynamics we have nowadays. And so even in Western countries, experts, politicians, civil society activists are asking themselves about like this right, and how can we, let's say, address the problem of the erosion of the welfare state nowadays, okay, and the lack of these social protection systems that throughout the years is always less, let's say, okay. And so there's this ongoing debate, especially around the topic of food insecurity and the response to it. So there's a debate on charity versus rights. So how can we address this phenomenon, okay? Do we need more charities, more pantries, or we have to shift to another approach in order to guarantee the access to adequate food, okay? So this is more or less the debate in Western countries nowadays, but the most interesting thing of the right to food is that it's not only connected to food insecurity and how to address, let's say, food poverty and access to food in, for example, in low-income families or for a certain part, for a specific part of the population. The right to food is connected to the whole food system, okay? Why? Because the food system, as I said before, is often described as broken. Why? Because the cheapest, the more accessible products are those with an highest environmental impact resulting from intensive agricultural practices that exploit workers and harm ecosystems, while also contributing to diet-related diseases such as obesity and malnutrition. So our food system works in a very strange way, okay? So it's very easy for us to access ultra-processed, let's say unhealthy food, and this food normally are also bad for the environment, and even from the social justice perspective, sometimes they exploit workers, for example, to lower the cost of production. And this food brings also problem to people's health, such as obesity and malnutrition, okay? So guaranteeing the right to food is also increasing this accessibility for all, okay? So not only for people that are in a dramatic economic situation, but it's actually increasing the access to those good products, let's say, to everyone. So that's why is important. So it's important for consumption, but also for production, because of course, while we are providing more access to healthy food, production also follows this consumption, okay? Because the good products can really can reach the entire population, not only a niche or people or high-income families, okay? Is that clear so far? Is everything clear? I try to be, let's say, I try to use like simple words so that we understand each other. So some critical concepts: the concept of food environments and the role of the public actor in shaping them. I don't know if some of you is familiar with this concept of food environment. Have you ever? Okay, some of you yes, some of you no. Okay, so what are food environments? Okay, I put a lot of text in the slides so that I can give you the slides at the end of the class and you can read it at home. So see the slides not only as presentation but also like a text that you can read later. So that's why I wrote a lot. So food environments refers to the physical, economic, political and sociocultural context in which consumers engage with the food system to make their decision about acquiring, preparing, and consuming food. Okay, so to be clear, food environment consists of food entry points or physical spaces where food is purchased or obtained. So, for example, supermarkets, okay, or farmers market, or I mean, where we go in order to buy food. So the physical spaces. Food environment consists of features and infrastructures of the built environment that allow consumers to access these spaces. Okay, so what this means, for example, the bus, the trains, because we can have a supermarket in our area, but if it's too far and we cannot reach it, it's not accessible. Okay, so we don't have to consider only the location of the supermarket, but also like how we get there. So is it possible to reach these places? Economic variables in food environments are very important. So, for example, food pricing. So I have a supermarket, is a bit far, but I can reach it by a bus, for example. I go there, but price is not accessible. So price is also another dimension that creates a food environment, okay? And there are also some other determinants, for example, the personal ones, okay? The income, education, values, skills. So price, let's say it's medium, but do I have the education to understand what's better for me, to have a balanced and healthy diet? Do I have enough income to access to these products? Okay, what are my values? So am I vegetarian? Do I belong to any particular religion so that I cannot eat some particular specific foods? So all these factors interact in a food environment. Marketing is very important, advertising. So let's say the marketing and companies, the advertise they produce will affect my choice, of course. So I will buy this product because I saw a spot on the TV regarding that product, okay? And let's say generally the surrounding political, social, cultural norms that underlie these interactions, of course, let's say are part of the food environment. And just to be clear, this is a very good graph from a publication of 2016, which I always use because it makes it very, very clear. And it shows how the food environment is actually the interface between the food supply system, so how the system is actually produced in agriculture, transported, processed, and retailed, and the consumer. So you can see how this filter is like a filter. While I am a consumer and I'm going to buy a certain product, what are the elements that are between me and the food that is on the other side? Okay, so as you can see, the availability of food. So if there's physically a supermarket, so the physical access, the food price, the food promotion, the labeling, and my personal values that, of course, influence this kind of this action. Okay, the act of buying or getting some food. So. So to conclude what these food environments are let's say include the presence of supermarkets, farmers market, grocery stores, fast food restaurants, school cafeterias, and even vending machines. Okay, it's not only about the physical access, but it's shaped by socioeconomic and educational factors. People's dietary choices depends on their income, food prices, cultural background. Is affected by food deserts, food swamps, and education. Okay, I don't know if you know, these two concepts were very popular in US in the recent years, because many scholars through their researches demonstrated that in many parts of US there are many food deserts and food swamps. Okay, food deserts are areas with limited access to fresh and healthy food. So, for example, places where grocery stores or a farmer's market, healthy food, fresh food is far. So, for example, you live in a small town, there are some small, let's say, deli or supermarket where they only have ultra-processed food, but you miss a farmer's market or a place where fresh food is sold. Okay, so this is a food desert. While food swamps is more an area with an overabundance of unhealthy ultra-processed food options. Okay, so for example, an area where you only have a specific type of grocery stores or supermarkets. Okay, they only sell, let's say, unhealthy products. And when I talk about food environment, I always ask the students, like, how is, in your opinion, the food environment in Cornell, so in Ithaca? So what's your relationship with food here? Okay, is it close to you? Is it easy to get fresh food? Is it easy to, cafeterias or restaurants are affordable? So what are the elements that, in order to understand the food environment, like you should ask yourself, what are the elements that influence the relationship between me and the food here where I live? Okay, it's a territorial dynamic. Okay, so I ask yourself, like, for example, do you think like the food environment of Cornell, it's good enough like to have a balanced and healthy diet, or can be improved, for example, just to make this reflection together? So what are the elements? Are there many supermarkets? Are there only vending machines, or there are no farmers markets? So yeah.
I was on campus. The university has a lot of initiatives to promote food security.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of dining halls across the campus with a bunch of different types of banners.
Mm-hmm.
One obstacle to I would say in Greater Ithaca is a lot of the grocery stores are in very specific parts of town, especially if you want to get food that's affordable. A lot of times it's difficult to get it from a car.
Yeah.
It's very much put in very specific parts of the town that are difficult to get.
Okay, interesting, very interesting. Okay, we should like collect this information, because maybe from this seminar we can create a small project, or I don't know, some yeah.
Ithaca has a great farmers market, which I think is a good interface between college and the local farmers.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, it's true. Also, a friend of mine living here, she told me the same, that the farmers market is it's innovative and it's big. So that's a good point. You're lucky. Okay. Some last consideration before we move on? Yeah.
I would say, for the dining halls, for example, I live on South Cape, we pick the farthest from, campus, and I would say like a dining hall there could definitely like improve, because you either have to rely on the bus or walk in, which right now you can do.
Yeah.
But again, like during the winter when it gets cold, and are you really gonna like walk and for 30 minutes, or are you really gonna wait for the bus outside when it's very cold, like late at night? Like you're not gonna do that. So
interesting. Also, the weather condition is right. So because it affects a lot our like transportation. Okay, very interesting. Thank you. Okay. Do you want to share any other thoughts? Okay, thanks. Very interesting. This is very interesting. And actually, in this particular, so every space has a specific food environment. In this case, so in Cornell, in Ithaca, the food environment is shaped by many actors, let's say. Okay, the university is, of course, the main actor. So if, there are some problems, you can maybe collect all this, let's say, feedbacks about the food environment, and you can, I don't know, go to some representative of the university and ask for changing it. Okay, so you can like interact to change the food environment. But outside the university, so in, let's say, our daily life, in our daily life food environments, there are especially, the corporate actors are the ones that influence mostly the food environment. Okay, of course, here at the university, the university itself can make a change. So maybe they can create, I don't know, buses to reach the farmers market, or buses to reach the grocery store. So that's the actor that actually can shape and influence, change the food environments. While outside, so in cities, in countries, in other territories, the corporate actors are the ones considered let's say the most the powerful actors that actually shape the food environment. Okay, by corporate actors, of course, we mean multinationals, retailers, food service providers. and how they shape this food environment through, let's say, the creation of products. So of course they are the ones that produce products. So sometimes they can create ultra processed food high in sugar, fat, and salt. So they can, of course, they can also produce some more organic and healthy food. But let's say in the past years they have been produced mostly this kind of ultra processed food. Marketing and advertising. This is very important. So private companies and private actors through their marketing can influence, let's say, the choices of consumers. Now think about children through the digital and traditional market, like how some products were targeted for children specifically, no? Then the pricing strategy, so using discounts or promotions to drive certain a particular kind of consumption, lobbying or policy influence, so shaping the regulation to favor corporate interests. So let's say in this dialogue with the public actor, they can shape regulations. And so finally, the supply chain control. So of course, private actors are the ones that produce, are the ones that transform food, are the ones that sell food. And so they dominate the production and distribution of food. Like in this slides, I've put, of course, let's say, only the negative aspects, but there are also many companies that actually produce very good food, organic, with some environmental and social standards. So of course, I'm just talking about how corporate actors can actually shape the food environments, in this case through an healthy and diet. But of course we have to consider the complexity. And so they play an important role, okay, in shaping our food system and in shaping our dietary choices, okay, through pricing and through marketing, etc. Okay, but we should also consider the role of public actor in considering this, in shaping the food environments. Okay, and this is, let's say, the core, the heart of my presentation. So what I want to say, and we have been studying in these years, is actually that we give for granted the role, the powerful role of the private actor in shaping our food systems, our food environment. But the public actor, they also play a big role. Okay, they have a big role in shaping our dietary choices. Okay, public actors include governments, public health institutions, regulatory bodies, so everything that we have at different levels, local, regional, national, to develop and implement food-related policies. Okay. And one of the most important tools that the state, and the state, when I say state, I mean the public actor, it can be also a municipality, is the public food procurement. Okay, this is a mechanism that is, we can describe it as the process by which public institutions such as schools, hospitals, prisons, state-run facilities purchase food to meet the nutritional needs of the people under their care of management. Okay, and this tool is a very powerful one that the public actor has in order to provide the right to food, provide access to food, and also shape production. Okay, because if the public actor sets some standards for those that have to provide food to those institutions, public actor can really let's say orient the production. Okay, if the state or a municipality, for example, for providing food in schools, says we just want food that is organic, that is local, that has been produced by certain social standards, etc., etc., the private sector, the production sector, will reorient the production according to these standards. So this is a very important tool, not only for access, but also for production. Okay, there's let's say there's an ongoing debate about this, the importance of this public plate, we can call it. Okay, why? Because it's the public providing this food, and so far, I mean, what is different in the nowadays debate is that the focus is not only on quantity. So it's not only providing food, for example, for kids in school. It's also providing food that is good, that is tasteful, that is meaningful, and that is sustainable, for example. Okay, because I mean, even in Western countries, I'm just taking the examples of school because it's a place that everybody knows. Sometimes, I mean, there's a universal school meal, but what's the quality of this school meal? Okay, so what are the standards behind this school meal? So the public plate. So that this is the issue. Okay, of course, it's not only through the public procurement. There are many policies and mechanisms and process that the public actor can actually use to shape our food system. So, for example, through urban food planning, so to creating spaces for urban agriculture to improve the availability of local foods. The subsidies for organic farming, so it's a way to promote this kind of production. Food labeling, so the public actor can really affect the way that the way corporations use labeling, okay, to communicate to consumers. So they can put some standards. Public actors can put taxes on healthy foods, for example, to increase the prices of food that is not healthy and not sustainable. So they can change the prices mechanism, okay? Because if you tax, of course, the price of the product can change. So if we give subsidies to food we believe is good, and we tax the one we don't believe is good, food environment and food system can change. As I said, school meal programs and food procurement, food income, so the SNAP. So SNAP is a very important program that actually helps people in increase their purchasing power, so they increase their access to food. The creation of affordable healthy food options and store, and later we will see an example. Local affordable supply chain, so creates, let's say, some spaces where food is more affordable. Okay, for example, I don't know if it's there is also here. I don't know if it's something related to New York City or it's the New York State, but there's this $double programs where people that have the SNAP can actually duplicate their let's say their benefit, and so they can go to farmers market and have the double of their income dedicated to food. Okay, so for example, this is a policy that helps that make food more affordable, especially local food. Food aid programs, also food aid, charities, pantries, of course, is a way to access to food. So the state can actually shape them, they can give some standards, can coordinate so that the food that is delivered through food aid system, through charities, is not only low quality food, but can do something to include some healthy food in these programs. Educational programs, so of course, as we said, food environment is also about nutrition. So when we let's say we wonder about Cornell, for example, food environment. Are there some programs about nutrition, some educational programs for students that discuss about food and nutrition, for example? So this is also very important. So in this case, the public actor can do something to improve the educational, let's say, level about food in certain spaces. Okay, so and I put here this the same graph because you can see how all these let's say actions and policies that the public actor can implement, let's say they are targeted to one or more of these dimensions of the right to food. So you can really see how the public actor can intervene in different elements of the food environment, the food system, to actually make it more affordable and influence the choices of consumer. Okay, before going to the last part, I would like to ask, like, how many minutes, like 10 minutes, how many minutes we left? Yeah, okay, 5. Okay, so I will ask you just to go through our discussion, because we will have hopefully we're going to have a small discussion. It's a provocative example about, like, the role of the public actor in shaping the food environment. I will ask you to make a dreaming effort. So this is something, it doesn't exist already, but that the next one of the candidates of the New York City to be a New York City mayor proposed, in order to ensure the affordability of food. So he actually proposed some public supermarkets. Okay. I've never seen in my life a public supermarket. I've saw some public hospitals, I've saw some public schools, but public supermarket doesn't exist yet. Okay, why? Because we miss, let's say, this notion of the right to food. Okay, we have a very clear right to health and right to education, but the right to food is still we're still, let's say, discussing about it. That's why we don't have supermarkets, and food, according to some scholars, is considered like let's say a market product, okay, a commodity, and not a right. Okay, so that's why we don't have them yet. But there are some proposals, okay, of these public supermarkets, and I brought this example because we are having the same discussion in my city, in Rome. So the Food Policy Council that I was telling you before proposed this innovation. So we want to test this kind of innovation, and these are some articles about the proposal in New York. Okay. Public grocery stores, okay, and how, there's an article about this proposal, and they are inspired by military model. Why? Because the closest example we have of public supermarkets are those of the commissary for militaries. Okay, I think some of you, you are familiar with that. Okay, so militaries can go to, they have commissary and supermarkets, and they make the grocery, and there the price is more affordable. Okay. And what's interesting in this proposal is actually that it's possible to lower the price for everyone, so that food can be affordable for more affordable for everyone, not only for people in need. Of course, for those people that have particular problems, that live in an economic dramatic situation, food can be free if they have some. They can present some documentation. And at the same time, the public supermarket can get food from, for example, local or organic farms. Okay, so there's a choice that the public actor make in order to set certain standards. It makes, in this case, it makes a moral choice. Okay, so this is also another point I want to stress. So in this case, in the case of public supermarkets, but also like in public procurement, when the public actor decides center standards, is making a moral and let's say a philosophical statement. So it is deciding what food is good and what food is not good. And so setting these standards means that the public actor is actually reorienting also the production in that direction. Okay, because we are asking for certain food. Okay. And this is also very, the idea of public supermarkets is also an answer to food insecurity, because it doesn't, let's say, it doesn't discriminate people, poor people, making, for example, making the line for food banks. It's a place for everyone, so everyone can go to a supermarket. It doesn't create this stigmatization between people going to food banks and people going to the grocery store. It's a public supermarket that everybody can go, and according to some scholars, this can, let's say, increase the dignity, let's say, of people in the way of people in poverty getting food. Okay. Okay, so I will conclude here. These are just some conclusions. So why we're talking about rights, because it increased the accountability of public actors. It ensures, I mean, the framework of rights ensure fair access to food. And the rights-based approach, this is what we are talking about, provide a clear framework for policies and resource allocation, strengthening the social contract between citizens and state. And there are some colleagues talking about a food welfare. Okay, so we have an health welfare, so we have healthcare, we have public education. Why we don't start talking about a food welfare? So some public services that actually can provide this access to food. Okay, as we have for health and as we have for education, for example. That's, let's say, the point of my presentation. Thanks.
Is it up?
It's,
Yeah.
it's the button.
Hello, hello. Anyway, thank you. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. I want to open it for questions, comments. Yes, please. And I don't know. Can you? Is it working?
Thank you so much, Francesca, for your presentation. I really like that you went into details about it. Well, my concern is when you talk about the right to food and not just good food. One of the political problems we run into is that of choice. So when in the global north, like if you look at data, one of the biggest scared the challenge is overconsumption of the wrong, what called the wrong types of food. You know, high fat, sugar, salt, and under consumption of fruits.
Yeah.
But then the political rhetoric, at least in the US, would be, you know, if you can afford to eat a huge load of burgers and fries, then you should be able to afford fruits and vegetables. And that is a huge role of choices in that. So how are you able to frame, like, what's the political framework for this, where talking about the right to good food, while also considering that people make choices that are not necessarily in line with that.
Sure, interesting. Shall we collect some questions or I go directly?
Go directly.
To go directly.
Yeah, go directly.
Yeah, yeah, actually, it's very interesting. As I said, there are many factors that influence our activities, and we cannot, cannot think, the public actor or they actually decide 100% of our decisions. Otherwise, it's really like what really freedom of choice of people in deciding what they want. And if I want to eat fries and I know they are unhealthy, I have the right to eat them, because maybe, food is not only nutrition, it's not only sustainability and ethics, is also like taste, it's memory, it's our biographical history. So if we want to write, there are many reasons why certain food. So of course, we should in this sense, it's important to state the importance of personal choices, of course. But as you said, the role of the public actor in this case should be to provide to bring equity, okay, to bring the access of good products at the same level of the unhealthy one, so that I can make my choice with the biggest freedom I can have, okay. So that it's really not about, I'm not choosing the fries because they're cheaper and because I want, and so I think it's a very it's a comprehensive and holistic approach we need to have. But in this case, the nutritional, the education, as I said, is very important, so that people, we should talk about food more. We don't talk enough about it, okay? And this moment, also like the more informal moments are very important to say, I mean, to discuss about the importance of center products in our diet, or the role that food can have in our well-being, because we have to see it in a well-being approach. Okay. So, so that's the point. We have to talk about food more, and so if we talk about food more, we also, I mean, we raise our about what we're eating, and we can make our choice in a free way.
Right, right. Thanks. Other question? Yeah.
In French, English, Spanish.
Ça va, pure.
Francesca, I'm Bharat, MBA student, Global Development. It's going to take big contribution to compete because if I'm not wrong, US has never ratified right to food. The rest of the world, maybe only 90 countries have ratified right to food, or it's there. So coming from that perspective, do you think Europe is also going that track, or Europe is trying for more inclusion? So that's my question.
Yeah, I didn't listen so well because I think the microphone was not working very well. Yes. I mean, right to food. Exactly. So the difference between, let's say, this context and European context. Okay, so I get it well. I mean, the right to food has two dimensions. One that is, let's say, on paper. So it's a legislative component. It has a legislative component. Okay, and then there's the operationalization of this right, and they're actually both important, because if there's only operation, new government can come and just cut everything. While if you only have the legislative part, you operationalize it, it remains on paper, and actually it's not. We don't have a real practice, a right to put in practice. So we should keep both. In Europe, there are many efforts in putting this on paper. So we have many charts, many constitutions that state that the right to food is important. But we don't. I mean, we are still. I mean, in operationalizing it is very difficult. While here, surprisingly, I mean, with right to food, I mean, the US didn't sign the convention on human rights. So let's say on paper, the US didn't sign this right to food, but that in practically there are more programs such as SNAP and other programs that actually implement this right. So it's a paradox. So I see here there's more operationalization, at least in this state, about New York State, New York City, here, more operationalization than in Europe.
It's okay.
I think it's working. I don't think they do. They're working.
It's fine, whatever. My name is Linda, and I'm a sophomore in global development. And my question to you was, what efforts have you seen in Europe, or now that your time here, that have surprised you, that intersect both education and also like sustainable access to food? For example, in my high school, there was an effort to use a garden and use food from the garden to be incorporated in the meals that they serve at the school. And there was like a specific class that you could take to literally like make the meals and work with the kitchen at the high school. So I think that's like an effort. So I'm wondering like if there's like any initiatives like that you've seen here that have surprised you, or maybe in Europe, or like how's that?
Yeah, there are many initiatives. Like what makes, as I said, like it's important to talk about food. I mean, all these activities bring, let's say, more awareness about what the food is, and it creates more debate, and I mean more awareness, and in general more education about food in a holistic way. And there are many initiatives that are more enthusiastic about food comparing others. So there are more passionate food activists, for example, in Europe. There are many food movements okay, food justice movements. And so what I've seen in Europe, it's like there's a huge movement of food, and they organize like Congress, assembly. So food is considered a political matter. So that's what I saw I'm seeing like in Europe. Like there are, I mean, it's a political space. Okay. I mean, here maybe it's the same. I don't know yet if and of course there are also here some experiences like this. What I see here is that maybe like in the pantries here, they try. I mean, they all. I mean, I'm talking about New York and New York State. They aim to provide the choice. Okay, the freedom to choose. This is something in Europe is not so provided. So when people go to a food charity, they make the lines and get a box, and they go. While here, it's, I mean, every pantry it has a space where people can actually choose what they want, and this is very important for dignity. So this is something that surprises me. Like, yeah, choice is considered important. Mm-hmm.
I have it as well. Here at Global Health. Thank you for coming to Cornell. The idea of the public supermarket was really fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more curious how the contracts would be handled. So I wonder would it be more state-run farms that are supplying these public supermarkets, or would it be towards the lowest bidder, or would it incentivize maybe farms, and if so, how do we keep fully out?
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. In certain parts of Europe and I don't know, in US actually, there's a work on public lands. So the municipality, we were talking about this with yesterday, there are some municipalities and some states that, I mean, take some public land that is not used, so it's underutilized, and they actually give it to young farmers or farms in general, because it's very hard to get a piece of land when you don't have a father or a grandfather or someone that has a land. So, and in these cases, for example, we think it's important to create. So public, I mean, food that is public produced, public supermarket, so that you create an entire chain. Public. It is very interesting, but it's not possible everywhere because, of course, every territory is different. So there are not, I mean, the availability of land changes, and so of course, like. It's hard, like the way we choose the companies that provide this food is critical. It's really the critical part. But through I mean, there are many procurement innovations nowadays. So you can really create some grants that do not choose the companies that has the lowest price, but they give values to social and environmental standards. So you make like you open a competition. So for example, we're looking for beans. Okay. You open a call, you open this grant, you set some standards, so it should be, I don't know, 100% local, organic, etc., 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 and you choose the best. So in this way, you can actually decide, and the diversity, the fact of choosing, for example, small companies or companies that have young farmers working there can be a standard. And so in this way, you don't choose big companies that have the monopoly of a certain sector, but you're going to choose the small one. So you can really choose the standards you want, and this way you shape the market.
Time's up.
Yeah. My colleague Rebecca, the professor, is here, and she's an expert on food procurement, so she can answer better than me to this question about. Yeah.